Hello everyone, my name is Ludwig and this is Ludwig Reads. Today I will do the mid-year freakout tag, or at least parts of it, because I know that I'm 1 or 2 months late, but I think it's a good tag with some fun questions to answer to learn more about who I am as a reader and which books I tend to enjoy. So I have picked out some of the questions and I think we should just jump straight into it. So let's go! The first question is the best book I've read so far in 2023. And that would for me be Fresh Water to the Flowers by Valerie Perrin. And this is a story about a woman named Violet who works as a caretaker at a cemetery in France. And she is quite content with her life, I would say. She likes it being very quiet, and she likes living at the cemetery as well. And after working hours, she just locks her doors, lights a candle, and reads her books. And in the beginning, it feels like she's very happy with her life. But as the story unfolds, we learn more about why she ended up at this cemetery, and we're thrown back in time to learn about her previous life. And one day, a police officer named Julian shows up to the cemetery, and this is present time, so it's in the beginning of the book when she's working at the cemetery. And this is because his mother has passed away, and her last wish is to be buried, or her ashes to be spread, I'm not sure, beside a man who lays on the cemetery. And this begins a side story of the plot where his mother has written down notes and letters about this man, and we get to learn throughout the story more about this relationship. Apart from present time, when she works at the cemetery and interacts with this police officer Julian, we are getting throwbacks from more than 20 years ago when she lived with her husband and her daughter. And it was not a good time. Her husband was treating her very poorly. He was basically an asshole. So we learn more about how they met and the stories leading up to her ending up at the cemetery. So I would say in the beginning it's more a cozy read about her working at this cemetery, and then as the story progresses it becomes more intense and suspenseful as well. And I really liked that mix. And I think it was very beautifully written. For me, it was an easy 5-star and my favorite book of 2023. And the next question is the best sequel of 2023. And the best sequel I've read so far this year is by Elena Ferrante, and it's the Napolitan series. And this is a story about 2 girls, Elena and Lila. And the story is told through Elena's perspective. And in the series there are 4 books. So in the first book we read about their childhood, and then in the second it's the adolescence going into adulthood and so forth. And it's a story about female friendship, a story about class struggles as we learn about the struggles of the working class and academia, going to university, and the choices you have to make, or you had to make in Italy in the 60s, 70s. And it's a gripping story. It's a very complex story about these 2 girls and their friendship. And sometimes I found it to be a little bit long and boring at times, but in general and in summary, I think it's a very good series and I highly recommend it. My favorite book is the second one and then the third one, so I believe that's also a good point, or like a reason I think it's a good sequel, because it gets better by every book, which is normally not the case in my opinion. So yeah, that would be my pick for the best sequel of 2023. And the next question is a new release that I haven't read yet, but I want to read by the end of the year. And that is The Only One Left by Riley Sager, a thriller. And if you watch my recent or my previous video, you know that I, in August, will read, or actually I have already read 2 of Riley Sager's thriller books from a few years ago, and I found them very intriguing and very exciting and suspenseful. So as soon as I saw that he released a new book this year, I knew that I wanted to pick that one up, and I've also seen some reviews of it here on BookTube, so I'm excited to pick that one up by the end of the year. And the next question is if I have a new favorite author this year. And I checked my Goodreads, and this was a difficult one, but I decided to pick Madeline Miller, who wrote The Song of Achilles. I believe the English name is. This is the Swedish cover. And even though none of her previous books, this one and Circe, weren't favorites of mine, but I enjoyed them a lot, and they were both strong 4 stars. I know that every book she writes in the future, I will pick it up. So I think that qualifies as a favorite author. And I really enjoy this, her picking out, especially in Circe, picking out a character that maybe hasn't had tons of attention previously in previous works and making it into a story and a book solely about this person or this character from history and mythologies. And I also saw that she is writing a new book that hopefully will come out later this year or next year, and I will for sure pick that one up. The next question is a book that made me happy, and that would be The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arikawa. And this is about a cat and his owner, and the cat is called Nana. And they are traveling around Japan in a car together, and it's super simplistic and a cute read, and you get to read through the cat Nana's perspective as well, which was super fun. And I actually laughed out loud like 1 or 2 times, which it's not usual for me when reading. So that alone made it qualify for a book that made me happy. And basically it's about the owner Satoru's life as well. So he travels around in this car with the cat, and he visits, I believe, 4 of his friends. And when you visit them, we also get a flashback to how he became friends with this person. And yeah, super, like I said, super simple, super cute, and it just made me happy when reading it. So yeah. And the next, the most beautiful book that I bought this year, and I just showed it, and I don't have a lot of options actually. So I picked The Song of Achilles again, and you can see the cover. It's the Swedish. It's the Swedish cover, and I mean, it's not revolutionary, but I think it's a nice color. It's my favorite color, blue and different shades of blue. So in lack of other options, I picked this one. And the last questions that I want to answer is, what books do you really need to read by the end of this year? And this, I don't have a specific book, but I have some genres that I want to dive more into. And that is, of course, thrillers that I have tried now this month with Riley Sager. I've tried to read more of, because I believe some of the booktubers that I watch have very good recommendations for thrillers. So I have really tried to check those out, and will continue doing so by the end of the year. And I also want to read at least 1 classic per month. So if any of you have any recommendation for that, please let me know. So I'll try to add it to my TBR. And other than that, I don't have a specific title, but I will continue reading my contemporary books and historical fiction that I always do. So that was it for this video. These were the questions that I picked out this time, and I don't know why it's called Mid-Year Freakout Tag. I feel like I wasn't freaking out. It was just a fun way to discuss the books that I've read so far. And hopefully you learned a little bit more about my reading taste, and let me know what you're reading this month, and if you have any recommendation for video ideas that I could do in August. I know that I want to take you with me to the bookstores, or some of the bookstores here in Stockholm. So yeah, look forward to a video about that in the near future. But otherwise, that was it, and until the next video, have a good one. Bye!